Hollywood has seen countless stars disappear from the spotlight because of scandals, the pressures of fame, or personal crises. But Nancy McKeon's story is completely different. Throughout the 1980s, she was one of the most familiar faces on American television. Millions of viewers grew up with the character Jo Polniacek in The Facts of Life, and many believed she would continue to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars for decades to come. Yet while her career remained stable, Nancy gradually stepped away from the spotlight without offering much of an explanation. There was no scandal, no tearful interviews, and no public announcement of retirement. She simply chose a different life. For years, fans wondered what had happened to the young woman who had appeared on their screens every week. Why would someone with the kind of fame many actors dream of willingly walk away from it all? And what made her trade the spotlight for a quieter life? Now, as Nancy McKeon approaches the age of 61, the picture of her life has become clearer than ever, and the truth may be even more surprising than the public ever imagined. Nancy Justine McKeon was born on 4th of April 1966 in Westbury, New York. Unlike many actors who find their way to Hollywood as adults, she was practically born into the entertainment world. Her parents always encouraged their children to pursue the arts, and Nancy's older brother, Philip McKeon, also became a successful child actor at an early age. From a very young age, Nancy became familiar with cameras. Before she was even old enough to read fluently, she had already appeared in Sears children's clothing catalogs and numerous other advertising campaigns. Photo shoots, television commercials, and auditions gradually became a normal part of her life. When the family moved to Los Angeles to support Philip's career, Nancy also began receiving more opportunities. She appeared in numerous national television commercials and quickly impressed people with her natural presence in front of the camera. Producers noticed something special about her, an ability to appear genuine rather than forced, unlike many other child actors. Even at a young age, Nancy understood that the entertainment industry was not just about glamour. It was a profession that demanded discipline, perseverance, and the ability to cope with constant rejection. Those lessons helped shape the grounded and calm personality she would later become known for. But no one in her family could have imagined that a casting call in 1980 would completely change Nancy McKeon's life and turn her into an idol for an entire generation of American television viewers. In 1980, at just 14 years old, Nancy McKeon received the opportunity that most young actors can only dream of. The producers of The Facts of Life were searching for a new character to refresh the program, and Nancy immediately caught their attention because of the completely different energy she brought. The character Jo Polniacek was written as a working-class girl from Brooklyn, tough, stubborn, and always willing to speak her mind. With her leather jacket, short hair, and love of motorbikes, Jo was almost the complete opposite of the wealthy boarding school environment portrayed in the series. Audiences immediately fell in love with the character. At a time when American television still offered fairly limited representations of women, Jo brought something fresh. She did not try to be perfect, she did not conform to traditional expectations of femininity, and she was never afraid to show her independence. For many young girls at the time, Jo Polniacek represented the idea that they could be strong, outspoken, and confident without changing who they really were. What made the role even more special was that Nancy did not simply play Jo, she almost became the character. The authenticity of her performance made many viewers feel they were watching a real person rather than a role written on a page. That connection helped make Jo one of the most beloved characters in the entire series. For 9 consecutive years, The Facts of Life maintained its position as one of the most successful television programs in America. Along with the show's success, Nancy McKeon became a familiar face in millions of households. By the end of the 1980s, she was one of the most recognizable young actresses on American television. But that success also brought a significant challenge. The more famous she became as Jo Polniacek, the greater the risk of being permanently associated with the very character who had made her famous. And when The Facts of Life came to an end in 1988, she faced the same question that many television stars have encountered. How do you move forward when the world sees only one character? Nancy's answer was neither dramatic nor ambitious in the way many expected. Instead, she began a completely different journey, quieter, more private, and one that would ultimately change her life entirely. After the facts of life ended, Nancy McKeon entered what many successful television actors consider the most challenging phase of their careers. The public still loved her, but they saw Jo Polniaczek in every role she took. Escaping the shadow of such an iconic character was never easy. Rather than rushing into major film projects to maintain her fame, Nancy chose a more cautious path. Throughout the 1990s, she continued working steadily in television films, television dramas, and crime and psychological projects. She no longer appeared regularly on the covers of entertainment magazines, but she quietly built a stable career based on acting ability, rather than the appeal of a former teen idol. People who worked with Nancy during this period often remarked that she was different from many stars of her generation. She rarely attended Hollywood parties, disliked becoming the center of media attention, and seemed determined to maintain a certain distance from the entertainment world. While many people were trying to become more famous, Nancy was more interested in living an ordinary life. It was during this period that an important event took place. In 1995, she met Mark Andrus, a film technician from Texas. He was not an actor, not a famous producer, and not someone seeking public attention. Instead, Mark offered Nancy a sense of stability that she rarely found within Hollywood. Their relationship developed quietly, almost entirely away from media attention. While many celebrity couples regularly appeared in entertainment magazines, Nancy and Mark shared virtually nothing about their relationship with the public. They built their life together around privacy, something Nancy had always valued more than fame. In 2003, after many years together, the couple held a simple wedding with a very limited guest list. There was no red carpet, no exclusive magazine photo deal, and none of the extravagant displays commonly associated with the entertainment industry. It was simply the wedding of two people who wanted to begin their life together in their own way. Looking back, many people believe that marrying Mark Andrus was the most important turning point in Nancy McKeon's life. From that moment on, she began making choices that moved her further away from Hollywood and closer to the life she truly wanted. And before long, Nancy would make a decision that surprised many fans, leaving the entertainment capital of America to begin an entirely new chapter in Texas. For many actors, living and working in the heart of Hollywood is a lifelong goal. But for Nancy McKeon, it was not a dream she wanted to pursue forever. After marrying Mark Andrus, Nancy gradually realized that the most important things in her life were no longer auditions or meetings with film studios. She began thinking more about family, peace of mind, and the environment in which she wanted her children to grow up. Eventually, she and her husband made a decision that many people in the entertainment industry found difficult to understand. They left California and moved to Austin, Texas. It was not merely a geographical change, it was a complete transformation of their way of life. In Texas, Nancy could go shopping, take her children to school, or participate in community activities without being pursued by the media. Life no longer revolved around film premieres, red carpet events, or the pressure to always appear in public with a flawless image. Meanwhile, Hollywood continued moving forward without waiting for anyone. New faces emerged, new programs became cultural phenomena, and younger generations grew up with different idols. Nancy understood that very well. But rather than clinging to the fame she had already achieved, she accepted that reality with remarkable calm. Acting roles gradually became less frequent. Some job offers were turned down because they did not fit the family life she was building. However, this was not a sacrifice Nancy regretted. On the contrary, it was a deliberate choice. Years later, people who met Nancy in Austin often described her as a down-to-earth, friendly woman who was completely comfortable living outside the spotlight. She still loved acting, but no longer viewed it as the center of everything. Perhaps that is what makes Nancy McKeon's story so unique. She did not leave Hollywood because she failed. She left while she was still admired, while opportunities were still available, and while the doors of the entertainment industry remained wide open. But just when life seemed to have found its balance, an unexpected period of sorrow arrived. Within only a few short months in 2019, Nancy faced the greatest losses of her life. The year 2019 began like any other for Nancy McKeon. She continued enjoying a peaceful life in Texas, spending time with her family, and only occasionally participating in projects she genuinely cared about. But within just a few months, her life changed in a way no one could have prepared for. In October 2019, Nancy's father passed away. For her, this was not merely the loss of a family member. He was the man who had witnessed her entire journey from her earliest days in the entertainment industry, the person who had always supported the family throughout the unpredictable years of Hollywood life. His passing left a profound void in Nancy's world. Yet an even greater shock was still to come. Just 2 months later, in December 2019, her brother, Philip McKeon, passed away at the age of 55 after a long illness. For many American television viewers, Philip was also a familiar face. But to Nancy, he was simply the brother who had shared her journey since childhood. The two siblings had grown up together in the entertainment industry, endured auditions together, experienced the pressures of fame, and navigated the constant changes of life as performers. They understood one another in ways very few people could. Losing both her father and her brother in the same year was an extraordinarily painful challenge for Nancy. Yet, true to her character, she did not turn her grief into a public story. There were no emotional interviews, no lengthy social media posts, and no attempts to draw attention to herself. Nancy chose to face her loss in complete privacy. For many celebrities, the public learns every detail of their personal hardships. But Nancy has always been different. She believes that some pain belongs to the family and does not need to be placed before the eyes of millions of strangers. That attitude has only earned her greater respect over time. In an era when nearly every emotion is shared publicly, Nancy remained faithful to the principles she had followed throughout her life, protecting the things that matter most from the noise of the outside world. After those consecutive losses, many people wondered whether she would ever want to return to the arts. Then, after years of being largely absent, Nancy McKeon unexpectedly reappeared in a way no one anticipated. After spending many years away from the spotlight, Nancy McKeon seemed completely content with her private life. That is why news of her return surprised many fans. In 2025, Nancy returned to New York to appear in Pen Pals, an off-Broadway stage production that attracted considerable attention. It was not a Hollywood blockbuster or a high-profile television series, but perhaps that is precisely what made her choice so meaningful. Nancy did not return in search of lost fame. She returned because her love of acting remained intact after decades. Audiences attending the production quickly recognized that the qualities they had always admired in her were still there. Her sincerity, emotional connection, and natural acting style seemed almost unchanged by time. When she stepped onto the stage on opening night, many people rose to their feet in applause as a greeting to the performer they had missed for so many years. What was particularly striking was that Nancy made no attempt to become a younger version of herself. Approaching the age of 61, she appeared natural, composed, and confident. Gone was the rebellious Joe Polniaczek of the 1980s, and gone was the pressure to maintain the image of a television star. In her place stood a mature, experienced woman who was entirely comfortable with who she had become. Recent photographs of Nancy often move fans in a unique way, not because she has changed dramatically, but because they reveal the traces of a life fully lived. The years spent as a mother and wife, the losses, the joys, and the difficult choices all seem reflected in her calm expression. Today, Nancy continues to consider new projects, but entirely on her own terms. She no longer chases demanding schedules or the pressure to remain constantly visible to the public. If she accepts a role, it is because she genuinely wants to do it, not because she feels the need to maintain her fame. And perhaps that is what has created the most beautiful final chapter in Nancy McKeon's story. After decades, she has finally become the person she always wanted to be, not a television star, but a woman living life on her own terms. When looking back on Nancy McKeon's journey, the most memorable aspect is not the number of roles she played, or the years she spent at the height of fame. What makes her story remarkable are the choices she made when she had every opportunity to remain at the center of attention. Many people spend their entire lives pursuing fame. Nancy is one of the few who achieved it, and then willingly stepped away from the spotlight to pursue something else. She chose family over red carpets. She chose peace over magazine covers. And she chose a life that truly belonged to her, rather than the life Hollywood expected her to live. Today, approaching the age of 61, Nancy McKeon is no longer the rebellious young woman on a motorbike whom millions of viewers once adored. But in many ways, she has become something even more admirable. Nancy's story reminds us that success is not always measured by fame or public visibility. Sometimes the greatest success is having the courage to walk a different path from everyone else and build a life that genuinely makes you happy. That may be why, after all these years, Nancy McKeon is remembered not only as a famous television star, but also as a woman who proved that stepping away from the spotlight can sometimes be a victory in itself. Do you remember Nancy McKeon as Jo Polniacek in The Facts of Life? What impresses you most about her journey, her successful television career, or her decision to leave Hollywood and pursue a peaceful life? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more inspiring stories about the stars we once admired.